Please be advised this podcast features AI cloned voices created with human oversight. All content is reviewed by experts for accuracy and relevance. Welcome back to the IADS Retail Park. If you're a returning listener and if this is your first time joining us, we're delighted to have you. I'm Maya, and today we're tackling a foundational and controversial question: do department stores still need private labels? With me is Christine, who brings exclusive IADS research and a wealth of insight to this debate.
Thanks, Maya. It's exciting to share this deep dive with our audience because the role of private labels is shifting fast. It is worth noting that today's discussion builds upon research conducted in 2021. So while the basic principles we'll discuss remain relevant, some specific details may have evolved. In this episode, we'll reveal what's working, what's not, and what it takes for own brands to matter in a market that's more competitive and more complex than ever.
Christine, let's start with the basics. Why have private labels historically been so important to department stores, and has that changed?
That's a great starting point you've picked out, Maya. Now, traditionally, private labels have been seen as margin boosters, loyalty drivers, and vehicles to reinforce a store's brand identity. For some retailers, especially major US big box chains, private brands are booming. Target now operates 48 private brands, with 10 of them each generating over $1 billion a year. But not everyone finds it profitable. For many department stores, the model is being re-examined as generational shopping habits evolve.
That aligns with what we've been seeing. Penetration among millennials is already 1 to 2 percentage points higher than previous generations, and it keeps rising. But the big question is, can department stores still win at private labels when margins and market loyalty are so unpredictable?
Yes, that's very true. As we've pointed out, the goalposts have shifted. Private labels can't just be about margin, they have to offer something unique, creative, and truly valuable, or they risk becoming irrelevant. The IADS found that on average, private labels account for just 6 to 7% of member stores' turnover, which tells you how much room for growth or reinvention really exists.
Let's talk price, a classic private label selling point. But is being the cheapest still a winning formula?
Price always matters, and recent McKinsey data showed that during the pandemic, over 45% of shoppers switched to private labels mainly for price. But that's not the whole story. Nielsen research from 2018 found that 67% of customers view private labels as good value for money, which is different from simply being cheap. For department stores, the strategy can't be about undercutting everyone. Competing with Amazon Basics, for instance, would be a losing game.
Right, and we've seen the pivot toward value over price. The Monoprix Gourmet range is a perfect case study. They introduced upscale gourmet foods that filled a market gap. The products aren't the cheapest, but they're a better value than the big national brands, and creativity plus research made all the difference.
That's right, cheaper only works if you layer in creativity and research to fill a market void. Target has done just that. Their cheap chic approach has redefined store brands as desirable, not second rate. And Le Bon Marché's Balthazar menswear line is seen as a quality brand in its own right, not just a budget alternative.
Let's dig into loyalty. Do private labels really deliver on customer retention?
Yes, without a doubt. Private labels can recruit and retain shoppers, especially when supply chain hiccups drive people to try new brands. Research shows 40% of consumers who switch to a private label during shortages plan to stick with it. And with customers becoming less brand loyal overall, private labels are one way department stores can anchor repeat business.
That's a key insight, and there's also the advantage of owning your data. When department stores sell national brands, the brand often owns the customer data. With private labels, all the insights, what's selling to whom and at what price, stay with the retailer.
You know, that data is gold for future product development and can even become a new revenue stream by sharing anonymized insights with partners. But there are limits. Spinning off private label stores outside the department store context, like Le Bon Marché tried with Balthazar, doesn't always work.
So, differentiation is critical. National brands are everywhere, but a unique store label with its own style or value proposition can make a retailer truly stand out. How are today's top retailers creating private labels that connect with customers on more than just price?
Creativity is at the core. El Palacio de Hierro in Mexico, for instance, segments its private brands by demographic and price point, from Catamaran for younger shoppers at entry price points to Chester and Peck for a premium audience. This multi brand approach lets them serve different segments with precision.
I really appreciate the way you explain that. Visual identity is key too. Monoprix's packaging actually makes daily staples fun, using bright colors and witty slogans so even a can of beans becomes memorable.
Absolutely. And then there's the power of collaboration. Monoprix has teamed up with edgy designers like Vincent Darry, turning private label items into collectible social media savvy products. Even storied names like JCPenney have revived collaborations. Think of their Juicy Couture partnership as a way to re energize and attract new shoppers.
It's a trailblazing move, especially as more national brands push direct to consumer approaches. Private labels are a way for department stores to stay relevant and exciting. Let's pivot to sustainability and CSR. How are private labels helping department stores prove their commitment to responsible business?
That's a really good question. Private labels now act as a benchmark for measuring and showcasing progress on sustainability. Macy's uses the Higg Index for environmental and social audits. Nordstrom consolidated its private labels and now produces most items in certified responsible factories. Magasin du Nord is working to make its entire private label chain transparent and sustainable. Galerie Lafayette, Bruninger, and El Corte Inglés are all setting similarly ambitious goals.
So, by investing in responsible private labels, department stores can demonstrate authenticity and gain more control over their ethical standards, something national brands don't always allow. Let's bring it home. Christine, after looking at the data and the case studies, do department stores still need private labels?
There's really no universal answer, Maya. For many, private labels are essential for margin, loyalty, differentiation, and sustainability. But profitability isn't guaranteed, and the future belongs to those willing to invest in creativity, research, and brand building. Some will multiply brands, others will consolidate, but only to stay agile, especially as e commerce and new consumer expectations reshape the game.
That sums it up perfectly. The private label story is still being written, and the most forward thinking department stores will set the next chapter. That's a wrap for today's episode of the IADS Retail Park. Christine, your exclusive research and perspective have added so much depth to this conversation.
Thank you, Maya. I enjoyed unpacking these trends, and I hope our listeners come away with new ideas for their own private label strategies.
And to our audience, whether you're returning or joining for the first time, thank you for being part of this evolving conversation. For further research, news, and analysis, follow us on LinkedIn or visit our Substack at IADS, Exclusive Insights.
Remember, in retail, the only constant is change, and the private label opportunity is yours to shape.
Until next time, keep innovating, keep exploring, and stay ahead of the retail curve. This is Maya.
And this is Christine signing off from the IADS Retail Park.